shade, and Nicole are going to lead this off, I believe.
I am. Thank you very much.
So thank you for that.
Okay, welcome Spear councillors and staff. So this is our kick-off now for workshop number 1 for your next long-term plan. And you've not long since been out of your previous one. You're about to enter your final year of the current long-term plan, and then you'll be headlong into the next one for 3 years. So setting the scene that this is going to have a lot of new legislation come at us over this next year. So anything that we do here, if we could maybe try and weave in and advise that we are nimble with this, we maybe contemplate some of those changes that are coming, but we'll guide you through that as we start to go through all the different sections. So the information that you've got in front of you, unfortunately, we'll talk at you for about 10 minutes here at the beginning as we just go through the first few slides in the presentation. A lot of that is also setting the scene for the public, trying to make this as simple as possible so that they're seeing the information that you're working through. They can actually begin to join the dots about what a long-term plan is, how it's actually formed. So the booklets that we talked about and I talked about earlier in the year are presented to you. We work through that. That information can go up on the website after we've had all the workshops, and it also gives you that tools and that information, those that are new to council, to be able to talk to the public around some of the items that are there. So any questions as we go through this, please just sing out. I've tried to make this really as simple as we can. There will be some very complicated stuff that will come at you during the year, but for now, as we open up, we'll just keep it as basic and simple as we can. All right. So we're setting the scene today, and one of the first thoughts that we threw at you, and bearing in mind in workshops we don't make decisions, we can't make decisions, but we're here to be guided by what you say and what you do around the table here. But this is your long-term plan. This is what you're doing on behalf of the public and setting the scene, and you own it. We are here to help articulate the decisions that you come to eventually down the track, but at the moment the guidelines that you give us, and then we present those to you, and you'll be able to tell us if we're on the mark, if we're off the mark. So for now, you had a thought around a theme which focused on core services, smart choices, and future-proofing Waimate. Now that you've had an opportunity to read through a lot of what we've done, and the reason why we make that decision is the front page of your previous long-term plan. That's what it says. That's the start of your vision and your guideline to how we then put the rest of this information together and get you through. So are you still comfortable, happy with the idea? And again, at any point we can change this down the track. You know, as this builds, you may feel that the theme needs to be tweaked, etc. But for now, are you comfortable that as a guide, you're focusing the conversations around core services, the smart choices, and future-proofing Waimate? So where we are at the moment, we've done a lot of the initiation. We're into the planning, and we're beginning to build the long-term plan. So these are the tasks that we perform, the major supporting information, and the documents that will be assembled. And this will go all the way through to December this year. So each month there'll be various workshops on topics. So workshop 2, for instance, will start to deep dive some more into the performance measures. We'll glance over them, set the scene, but next workshop we'll do a slightly deeper dive. We are setting the foundations. So as we said, we've completed the initiation of the planning phases. We're moving into the building phase, and we're going to focus on creating that shared understanding of the strategic direction, and not the detailed decisions at this stage. They will come later on as you start to adopt various aspects of it, and certainly when you finally adopt the LTP. The strategic direction establishes the guidelines for how we will view and judge the activities. And I think the big note at the bottom is pending legislation which can affect the development of this LTP. So we will keep you updated with that. We will make sure that this is nimble enough to be able to move without complete restructuring your LTP, so we'll guide you through that. I'm sure as we go through this, Stuart will also have a very big say on your direction. It's him as the CE to also be able to articulate that to us as senior leaders and as officers of the council. So you'll hear a lot from Stuart when he wants to dive in and give you guidance through the various workshops as we get underway. So you set the foundations, you have a vision and your outcomes, which these at the moment that you're seeing are your current long-term plan. Now, again, having said that, you've only recently done this. So how much do you want to change? And maybe the guideline is to, maybe you want to rethink some of your visions and activities that sit below, and we're going to talk you through that in a second, and then some of your performance measures. But I think the advice is you're not too far off where you've been for this one that you've just done for 2 years. So maybe think about how the tweaks or the changes, again, it's your document, so we're guided by you, where you may wish to just slightly change the focus. And at the moment, your theme is saying onto some core services, and how are we going to set the scene for Waimate? So we're guided by the Local Government Act. You've had some attachments, and then Tina very kindly sent you through some extra reading if you wanted through on the Kona website. It's really good information background for you about how and why we build the LTP, its purpose, so that's all there for you to lean on. We've given you some extra information that you put away in your toolkit now, and as we go through the workshops, we'll keep giving you this information that allows you to be ready for any questions that do come from the community and from the public around how we establish the decisions you make, your strategies, etc. So your current vision statement is leading our communities towards a diverse, thriving and sustainable future. And the questions that we'll pose when we get to that point will be, does this vision statement still reflect Council's goals for the future, represent your community and provide a clear direction for Council's activities? We'll pose that for now, and we'll come back on some of these questions for you. So you also have the vision and community outcomes, and those are your 4 pillars. And you've got your thriving community, safe and healthy people, you're sustainable. And then you've got 3 comments underneath each of those. As we go through this workshop, we're going to guide you to where we feel, don't tinker with that area, but maybe think about some of your comments in those sections below each of your thriving communities. So your district that promotes infrastructure, your district that encourages development, a district that actively promotes. Those are the comments underneath it we want you to think about and maybe play around with in regards to refocusing your strategic direction. We have different activities in council. You'll be aware now that water, stormwater and sewerage will not form part of your LTP going forward. Being very clear that they will come to you in their own little mini LTP, which the water committee will work through. It'll be a very similar timeline. And your water committee, along with your direction to the water committee and with Stuart and the mayor, how do you wish to see some of that information come through and back to the table? They will be, you will be eventually adopting a water strategy. It will be separate to your LTP, but it will then feed into your LTP at the end when you adopt in June of 27. So again, we'll take you on that journey, and the water committee will be thoroughly versed on this, and then that information, and maybe there's a workshop from the water committee at some point in the future to outline, and Stuart will be able to sort of give the nod on that, for them to come and give you their journey of how that water strategy is going to be formed. So I'll leave that with you as a conversation. So breaking it down, when you've got your activities, and we'll take community services as a for instance, and we've got economic development, etc. And then you have your intended level of service. So those intended level of services are what we then build up and we project back at you to try and make sure that we have articulated the strategy and the direction of which you are going to guide us to. So it'll be a little bit of a two-way back and forth as we lock those in over time. So as I said, because they're guidelines, they're open for us to, once we've developed this first draft, it may be that we begin to sort of change focus a little bit as legislation comes at us. So it's a two-way conversation as we work through the workshops. And then underneath each level of service, you've got a breakdown of how we do that. So how do the officers of council break that down and then structure our budgets, our focus, our work streams around delivering on your strategic direction. The importance of the detail of that information, this is where we then internally build up our performance measures, and our performance measures should then feed back to making sure that we're staying on track to the strategic direction that you've given us. So there's the connection between your levels of service and how we then also watch those or guided by them through coming back every quarter and through your residents' surveys every 2 years, how we're performing along some of those measures. Okay.
So you guys will be keeping an eye on the emergency management bill and the implications that could possibly have?
Yes.
Yep.
So that, some of that implication will come through probably in the next couple of weeks, because the systems improvement bill is changing the purpose of local government and may include civil defense as a more prominent role.
Yeah.
So likely we'll know more in the next 2 weeks, but that will just depend on what comes through.
Yeah, we heard all sorts of rumours about, percentages of budgets and stuff like that, so.
Yeah, we've got our eyes on it. We've got the risk tracker going to audit risk every quarter.
Yeah.
So yeah, anything that happens will be brought to council.
Good stuff.
Yeah, and I think that's where we're cognizant as we begin to build this LTP, that we proactively think about those things and weave them in so that it's not so much of a shock when these things come. So again, we put that on the table in front of you. We know that this sort of stuff's coming. How do we head it off at the pass and think about it and put our thoughts to some of the areas that we want to watch. So as we said, your levels of service, etc., will then start to feed into your performance measures. Quick reminder of your resident community survey. This is every 2 years, and these were some of the areas where the community spoke about where you sit in their most satisfied, and then there were some of the levels in the red where they were most dissatisfied. So again, we think about what areas do you want to bring up, what areas do you think that you're doing enough of and you wish to hold and continue. And so this is that push and pull, also taking into account legislation and where central government are taking you. So there's quite a lot of conversation around that area for you to have as an elected member group, and then feedback to us to be able to begin to interpret into the work streams that we do. So the performance measures here that we recommend that you don't change some of the resident survey. You're tracking over a number of years now as a really good benchmark. And Shay's going to jump in and just remind you very, very quickly of some of the work we've done there. We can't change mandatory measures, especially the roading. We can't play around with those, but we can adapt the remaining existing measures or introduce new ones. Now, I'm not suggesting that you go and add 5 to each lot. You'll probably not be too impressed with that. You spent quite some time reducing a lot of that, so you are measuring what that is. So it's actually being targeted and very thoughtful about any introduction of new ones, but you can change and adapt the remaining measures, and we'll point those ones out to you so that it's very, very clear. We will really do the deep dive on your measures in the next workshop on the 21st of April. So at the moment it's quite high level, just giving you some background. It's your vision statements, your activities, and some of the comments around that could drive levels of service that we're interested in today. And we'll ask you to think about those specific areas of council that you would like that quarterly reporting on. And those ones that we can change, those are the ones that we come back to you every quarter, as well as the standard ones there. You don't get much change in those, but the quarterly ones are there. You might want to focus, okay? So there is some climate change integration into this. Now, we're not suggesting in any way, shape or form that we take a big front seat with this, with all the glaring lights. We've heard your comments around this. It's about what can we do within our council operations that does not add any extra money, but what can we do to just change some of our habits and maybe some of our behaviour in a cost neutral fashion. You have a strategy and we are still required to report up via audit on that strategy, but we feel, and we've spent some time with Dylan and Shay and I, and we feel that there are some areas Dylan's done quite a bit of work, and maybe, do you want to have a quick say on some of the information circulating around the departments?
We've just gone through the action plan points and picked out areas that we're already meeting, really. We're setting the bar pretty low so that we have some stuff to report to, but they're either cost neutral or no extra cost. Still a bit of information to come back. You know, but some things have been ruled out as just not going to happen. You know, keeping it simple is the solution here, I think.
We agree.
And practical, like, you know, not just focusing on those little things, but things like keeping our culverts cleared that'll actually have a bigger impact down the line. I think that's where we need to be looking at with the practical changes for weather events.
I think the big focus needs to be on just identifying what we're already doing. And I know there's a lot of that.
Yeah.
And we don't need to reinvent the wheel.
Hell no.
And thus far we maybe have not told enough of a story on those things that we're already doing. And those are the things that we can actually bring forward into the long-term plan. And as Dylan has said, he's been across all the departments, especially the assets. That's where you're going to get your biggest change of behaviour, and building in that resilience, which also then is linked to that climate change and that adaptation. So this is where thinking forward, being practical and trying to be cost neutral will actually speak to several of those different areas, and hopefully some of that legislation change when we get some guidance. These things will come together and will make sense when we report up on them. So this is where we get to, and I get to stop talking an awful lot, and then we get to hear an awful lot from all of you. We're going to work through the little booklet that I sent you, and the reason why I did it this way is, first of all, so that you get to see all of the different departments that are contributing the sections to this long-term plan. A lot of it comes from Shay and I, and through the community and strategy. A lot of it comes from finance. Then there is input from assets. There are strategies that get written in the background, and Michelle and her team that pull all of this together and start to do a lot of the beautiful work that gives you your designs. So the sooner we begin to build this and give that information to the teams, it flows through over the year and keeps that sort of end of last few months of this huge, great big sort of spike of work. So we're going to try and do that a bit of time. But the booklet is also showing you the pages in your current long-term plan, or the sections that we're working on for your new one, and then posing the questions again for the public and then for yourselves, because that's that really rich feedback that we're looking for. So when we're thinking about today's questions, we're thinking about future proofing, includes resilience. So how do we build resilience into this new plan? What is Waimate's identity now and in the future? We are a diverse district with urban and rural and lots of new people settling into the district. So how do we capture some of those changes? And both of those ideas and thoughts came out of the monthly catch-up that the Mayor and the Deputy Mayor have with Stuart and the leadership team when we do the LTP project management once a month. At that point, we're going to start here, and I'm going to throw the first question at you. You've got your current vision statement, and do you wish to adapt it, change it? You've got your theme, but where would you like to go now with your leading our communities towards a diverse, thriving and sustainable future?
The only thing is, I had brought this up, we're not aiming for diversity. Diversity is an outcome of our policy, so it's not an aim. And I just wondered whether maybe there's a better word than diverse.
Yeah, I agree.
So we're thinking more like what we're really aiming for is inclusivity of the diversity in our town.
Sorry, could you repeat?
Like inclusivity, like we want to have a district
Yeah.
that's inclusive because it's diverse.
Welcoming.
Yeah.
But diverse to me, it's not only about people.
Oh,
So I think
about
It's also
different
about
classes.
the jobs, about industry, about the people is only one small portion of it.
Yeah.
A diverse district has a range of industries. It has a range of opportunities, and that it's this is not saying that we want a whole heap of migrants living here.
No, it's about.
This is saying we don't want all our eggs in one basket.
Yeah.
We want a diverse.
But we're not doing that because we're not facilitating, for instance, different economic activities.
We do.
Well,
Tourism and-
that's not our aim.
It's not our aim, but it's what we're promoting as a council.
I kind of get where you're coming from, Sandy, in that
I mean,
how are we walking our talk on this as a council leading it?
We're a facilitator.
Yeah.
We do that with our district planning, with our committees that we set up, our water committees, with the rules and regulations that we put in place. We don't have to lead this.
Yeah,
It's a bit
We
about.
just have to facilitate it.
yeah, I think that's where some of the wording,
You can sit here and go round and round and round and round, even decreasing circles for the rest of the day and not come up with the right answer and that sort of thing. Well, it might be right for me, but it won't be right for you, Jackie, or someone else. And that I don't think I'm not going to die in the ditch over one way or the other, but I don't see us wasting a whole heap of time changing one word because we don't like the word diverse. And that depends on how you look at that and what it means. If it ain't broke, don't fix it, is my opinion.
The problem we have here is the meaning of the word diverse has changed in the last 5 years.
Exactly, Paul. It has changed hugely.
We're going back to its old meaning.
Yeah, we're using the old meaning of the word, which is, they don't have all your eggs in one basket.
Now it's a weapon rather than.
Yeah, now that when they mention diverse, they're talking about really different, community sectors and migrants and all the rest of it. So I don't know whether there is a better word than,
Inclusive or welcoming?
well,
But again, this is talking
That's
about.
different to being a diverse.
It is, but inclusive is still, no, that's not, that you're right, that's not right either.
yeah.
Welcoming, no,
that's-
really.
I was going to say, can we change the sustainable future, because that's a buzzword.
Yeah, it is, I agree.
And we don't want to keep the community in district like this. We want to build to a better district, and so if you sustain, just keeping it in.
I like resilient.
Enduring.
Resilient ties
I
back
like
to our
resilient.
theme.
Resilience is a buzzword too.
Yeah, it's got to be a word which.
They're all buzzwords.
There's always a
Lasting,
This
enduring.
is just a vision statement.
Exactly.
This is not,
Yeah, I know.
not rocket science.
No.
So just remember, anything you've got to put in there, you've got to back up. So if you say it enduring, so what are you doing within council to ensure that the district's enduring?
Replacing pipes.
Replacing pipes, improving the water supply.
Because enduring could be talking to your future proofing. So when you think about your core services and you think about your focus in that area, and then thinking about future proofing, but then it comes back to, it was a bit of a conversation about what's your identity as a district? What is Waimate's identity, and what do you want that to look like? What you want to hear people down the street. When you think about, if you don't want to lead are you facilitating our communities towards a welcoming, thriving and resilient future? You're just thinking about those words. Yes, they're buzzwords, yes, it's high, but they're not just aspirational, but they should be uplifting a little bit, but then you can hook a lot of the other things that we're going to do through those words. They're going to drive us. The sentiment of the word is the important bit here.
I think one of the things when I think about these things is we always try and find words without meaning and they're motherhood statements. I wrote one down: delivering essential services that support thriving communities and a sustainable future.
Like that, much better.
Because we're always starting looking at this when I said leading our communities. We're working with, we're not sort of dragging them, we're not. So I don't like that as an outset. But, and to be honest, it's a little bit dated because of what you said, Lisa. Try and
just
dump buzzwords.
Yeah, just freshen it a bit with our own words, like welcoming, which is warm. Like that's something that I hear from people when they move to town. It's such a welcoming community. Everybody's been really welcoming and friendly, and I just think it makes it, I don't know, it just sounds less like he can and more like us.
It's like our council vision statement and our values. They've been there 20 years, and where it says, what does it say?
Evolution and something.
Where it says customer focus, they're not customers, they're community and sort of things. I mean, you don't want to change the whole thing, it's just changing those words, but
that was the old way.
You can tweak it and just change the word out. Customers with communities.
I like the word delivering, because that's what we do.
Delivering essential services that support thriving communities and sustainable future, and co-pilot agrees with me.
And I like putting the word communities as a plural in there, because our diversity is the different communities we have in our district. I really like that. That feels much more comfortable. This is any council, any corporate. I get what you're saying, Lisa. This is not us. This is any.
Yeah, it could be anywhere.
This Fraser.
But
Any political party run on that.
humanising your vision, which then directly talks to your community, and getting away from corporate speak.
It's quite interesting. I was talking to Dylan, Gareth were in the smoker room. He was reading a piece in the newspaper where Merino New Zealand are changing their logo and their away from Merino into Zest something or other. And he goes, why do people do this? I look at the logo, I don't know, they deal with merino wool grown in New Zealand. Whereas this new buzzword that they've got is some of the first part of it is to do with the sustainable future of our There you go.
Virtue signalling.
We sell wool.
Crazy.
Yeah. Just keep it simple.
Yeah, and I like Stuart's idea because of that essential services focuses back to our theme. And that focus onto our core, because I don't think that this, as it stands, fits any council's long-term plan now in the current climate that because there is such a we don't know what's going to happen.
Nobody's going to be thriving.
We want people to thrive, but that's where I like that, pulling it back to what we actually do.
Say it again, Stuart.
Delivering essential services that support thriving communities and a sustainable future.
Not thriving.
Our thriving.
Yeah. Do we still have thriving?
Our thriving, not.
I think, we want, that's what
We want surviving.
Surviving.
Well, it's got to that stage, hasn't it? Yeah.
I mean, our goal, I guess, our vision is still to see people thrive here.
Absolutely.
We want our communities to thrive. I think the word essential, I like it. Maybe core. I'm just wondering whether,
I think essential and core are almost interchangeable.
yeah, and I guess it's how, and that will form part
Go
of our
with essential.
consultation process, I'm sure, is what the community considers to be essential and core, because it differs depending on every person.
That's where
you
the
talk to.
conversation starts.
Yeah.
Later on in the document is what do you consider essential?
Yeah.
And they,
Yeah.
right, that's it, you got the nail on the head.
I think it's good.
That's
We're
good.
all happy with that as a guide to your opening vision statement.
Because the other one is our current values, you know, the first two are teamwork and ownership, and that's inward looking.
Yeah.
I think that needs to be modernised as well, and I might just have a look at that and send some stuff in.
What was that, you were saying?
It's inward looking.
No, which one you just said?
Values, teamwork and ownership.
Oh, yeah, okay.
You're right.
I don't know why they're there. We discussed this at a leadership team meeting about a year ago and we didn't pick it up again, but anyway, I'll leave that there.
Okay, so then we go to thinking about your community outcomes. So you've got your thriving community, and we've got the safe and healthy people, we've got sustainable district and environment, active, diverse and supportive community. Now we have to be a little bit careful about some of the language under each one, but there may be words that you want to swap out. But it's the items in yellow underneath a district that promotes infrastructure for economic activity. Are there any of those 12 comments underneath each of those community outcomes that you want to rethink, rephrase?
The first one, thriving communities. You don't really promote infrastructure, do you? I mean, shouldn't it be that meets the infrastructure needs or something like that? You don't promote.
It delivers.
Champions.
I'd change that with builds.
Yeah, it builds.
It builds infrastructure.
Builds or delivers, yeah.
Feels better than promote.
Dumb down the language and make it more meaningful.
Yeah,
Agreed.
real.
And again, it's just thinking,
District that wants to see development.
But are we building like for economic, because it's not just for economic activity, it's actually part of living well.
Yeah, for you.
Like-
Well, if you're living well, that drives your economic activity.
Yeah,
Under safe and healthy people, the second item does speak to how that infrastructure serves as quality of life.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
yeah,
Which, I have a question about the first one, how can we control if people feel safe in their home, work, and public spaces?
and that's your lobbying that you've been doing with your local police force. It's about those sort of things about people being safe down the streets.
After hours officers.
You have cameras, you do have.
alcohol bylaws.
Yeah, it's a lot of your bylaws.
Dog control.
Yeah, again,
Maintaining our spaces so that.
yeah. Design of our playgrounds, new matting.
do you play around with that sentence so that it then it better describes, instead of just this high-end, a place where people are safe without, but remembering that these are layered, that this is the person underneath this, then comes the core services that we build, and then the things that we do, we focus, and then it drives itself back up.
I just wonder whether safe's too narrow, maybe something like valued.
So safes are it's been around for a long time. What that reflected was when councils build infrastructure, and particularly pathways and parks and that sort of stuff, it's well lit. All those considerations are taken as part of any development.
And with footpaths, we've got crossings for disabled people and like, it is fact. I think safe is actually a really good word because it's part of what is attractive to people about this, moving to this community. It is still that perception that this is a safe place to, and healthy, like that safe and healthy people. That is how people perceive it. Like when we talk to new people that have moved into town, they come here for those reasons. Mine, I'm still stuck on the very first one. It promotes, because I do think that first phrase needs to be completely overhauled. Encourage, the other two are right, but that builds resilient infrastructure, sustainable infrastructure. Like there needs to be something more in there, like our job in that asset infrastructure space is not just to build it, but it is actually how we maintain it and how we build smart the first time.
That future proofing.
Yeah, so I'm not quite sure how to phrase it, but you know, when we talk about that, I don't think we build it for economic activity. Like,
yeah, and again, we can take away a lot of the conversation around the table today, and if there isn't anything that we immediately change now, then we can come back with some suggestions and some thoughts and play around with some of these words and present some options to you, that you can then guide us again through this. So we don't have to absolutely nail it today, but give us some feel
That's something they like.
of the direction that we're
The district that builds infrastructure fit for purpose.
yeah, that actually makes
Yeah, but that's
far more
for the
sense.
public, that sounds more council talk rather than, hey, this is
To meet the needs of the community.
And this is supposed to be
Yeah,
a
Easy
forward
bit.
thinking, looking ahead document.
yeah.
And that-
Meet the needs of its people.
Yeah, it meets these community district that builds infrastructure to meet the needs of the community.
So what I'm sort of hearing around the table is a move and a drive towards less corporate speak,
Yes, absolutely.
less old language,
Yeah.
and a little bit more touching the reality of what you're doing for the community as a group of councillors. And future-proofing, thinking about what's essential core and how we're going to then build on that further down the track, besides doing what we have to do as a local council. That'd be a bit of a because we can go away and play around with.
I think so, because like sustainable district and environment, you know, my grammar's not that good, so all of those three things are sort of different style, right? The first one, district that is enhanced, the second one is our heritage is valued. You know, they should all be in the same
tone.
Same tone, yeah.
Yes.
And the last one, we value, suddenly we's brought into it, you know? Just like, really odd.
And that's exactly the sort of direction and the guide that we're looking for about how we swap out some of this.
Yeah, same message, different tone.
Yeah.
Anybody else got any other thoughts?
Just where, I don't know, just thinking out loud, just where we've got people, I don't know, all people are encouraged, a place where people are safe. I don't suppose there's any other
Community instead of people.
we could use only people, and I just sort of coming back to where people feel, or saying people feel valued or respected or something, whether or not that fits in there at all. It seems, I don't know, is there enough emphasis on the residents or more than what we do? Does that make sense?
Okay.
Yeah, yes.
Yeah,
Yeah,
again,
you're right, Peter. Yeah.
underneath each one could be a concurrent theme instead of each one of them trying to be a statement in its own right, separate to the next one that comes in, and then the next one.
Yeah.
Theme running through.
Let me edit.
Well, no, just when you look at that, it's like Peter just touched on what I said. It's like the only time we mention people is when we want them to vote.
Yeah, good point.
You know?
And to be safe in their home.
Or to be safe in their homes, but I don't know, maybe I'm just thinking.
I'm just wondering, you know, where you could simplify the whole thing and just, instead of trying to invest too many words, and the top ones just have community, people, environment and infrastructure.
Yeah, well, could just do that.
And then the ones underneath, as Peter said, tone them towards those specific
Targets, headings.
Because then each pillar is still the framework and architecture of the LTP, if we swap out community for something completely different, suddenly that whole flow through of your performance measures and your resident surveys and your, we've just got to be a little bit careful we don't completely change direction.
Well, you know what, because you have a thriving community, you can put a dozen different words in front of community, community's community.
Yeah.
Community, people, environment.
Infrastructure.
Yeah.
Because that would probably lend itself to more compatibility to the RMA changes too in terms of built environment.
Yeah, simpler, it's better.
Yeah. This is more.
It's probably
Yeah,
just-
less is more.
probably
This
just
is what you
simple.
get when you get a consultant.
Yes, I know, yeah. Really.
Just thoughts anyway.
Yeah, we can do that. Okay, we'll have that's really good guidance for us on that one.
I shouldn't say this, but why don't we just enter it into co-pilot?
I think some of us.
That's what every other council's done.
You can, but you've got to be a little bit careful. Sometimes it can hallucinate and spit out some really.
Yeah, sorry, tongue in cheek.
Yeah, no, I use Copilot an awful lot now, honestly, you don't. Really wasting your time.
So just before we have a conversation about the performance measures, for those of you that have got the workbook handy on your laptops, we also had a couple of questions there about the strategic overview. These were pages within the long-term plan. And I just want to quickly go back to those and just maybe lock in some of that. We'll put in the new language.
What page are we on?
So if you go to the workbook that was attached.
Page 43.
So we had a strategic overview, what is the long-term plan? And you had a description of the information there, the planning cycle, how does the LTP affect me, etc. And was there any change? I mean, obviously we could play around with the design or change the colour, but I think the content of the information looks, nothing's changed there.
It's just in the second paragraph down where we talk about it being this is a different plan because it's 2 years.
Yep.
And I've just put this LTP is different because, you know, back to pet peeves and frustrations, but we're being asked to build something in a world that we don't know what the outcome's going to look like, and that's my mini rant. Biggest frustration, it just seems so counterintuitive that this is the way it has to be around. But I think we need to acknowledge the legislative change and effectively that this is still a different plan, but in a rapidly changing environment, legislatively or something like that.
Perhaps after 3 years, we just put historically this has been a nightmare.
Good highlight, this is probably the last LCP you'll ever have to do.
I wasn't going to say that.
Well, being realistic about it.
Typically, the CE's message, CE and the mayor's message will very much pick up on that. What are the
Shall observe
times?
with interest.
And so when we get that directive from the CE and the mayor, that tends to flow down into the language.
Okay, cool.
That tends to be updated, but we'll make a note of that to make sure that the language we use is more reflective of the times.
Because I would hope by the time we actually get to consulting, that we have some clarity from government.
I would well and truly hope so, because that.
I know, comedian today. Yeah,
Actually, by this time next year, if we haven't got it together in a year, then we're really struggling.
Yeah.
That's if we've got the same government.
That's the problem, and so it's really difficult
Let's say that.
all the way through this. It's really difficult to say now what this needs to be because it could be completely ripped apart.
So in the general information of how and what is a long-term plan, I think all still stands the test of time. It's just
the cycle
that
and stuff's good.
that information there. So
There was just a point on that one where it says, how does the LTP affect me?
Yes.
At the bottom of that.
Traumatising.
And then it goes on and says what it says, and then at the end it says, we need to work together to achieve common ground and deliver on what's best for the wider district and the communities that reside within. Now I'm just playing devil's advocate on that one, because my question I put down was, how do we work together when ultimately council and central government make rules and final decisions? So from a public point of view, reading that, that's just how I would come up with, because we're saying that we're working together with the public on this, or with the communities on this, but on a lot of the stuff in here, but very little of it that really is coming from the communities. Mostly it's central government reform, mandated stuff, and business as usual for council.
Over which we have no control.
Right, so how are we working together with our communities? In that last statement, how do we quantify?
Well, I guess it comes down to the consultation period that we have with the LGP about, here's your opportunity to be part of the.
Yeah, I get that, and there is an opportunity for them to say that, and I'm not putting fault in them to saying this is the system and how it works, but there's only a very minor part of that LTP that really goes out to public for consultation that they haven't got any say on. And statement.
It's just the key issues. That's all that goes out for consultation.
Yeah. So can
just remove work together. We need to achieve common ground.
We can remove it, or what we can do is again come back to you at some point, because this is an evolving piece of work at the moment. So again, this is why we're guiding. We're not in council making decisions. We're getting some guides and some feel. And I think that that last whole sentence there, the paragraph, is probably something that needs to be rephrased, because the whole landscape could be quite different. So at that point, you may be signalling that you're guiding the community into the future with whatever legislation has come to pass, and you're aligning the public ready for that journey. So we could actually leave that whole last paragraph and change that, think about it, have another discussion around it when we actually have a bit more of an understanding of the trajectory.
I think what we need to do is we need to sort of put the words around the fact that, you know, localism is still alive, barely, but within narrowing margins.
Yeah, I think that's what I'm saying.
You know, between, and this is the really important conversation between localism and centralisation.
You know, I mean, I just look at it from the point of view, say the whole fluoride debacle. Well, you know, there were communities that didn't want that, and they fought and fought and fought, and their councillors fought and fought and fought, and yet the government still went ahead and mandated them to do it. So
we're not really free, are we?
No.
No, but that's a bigger issue.
It is, but
it's a bigger issue over the structure of local government. That's what happens.
As I say, it's the systems.
Well, you don't have a constitution can be really demolished with the swipe of a pen.
Yep.
And that sort of thing. I think the statement should be something like, we do the best we can with the limited information that we have.
I think that you and Councillor Guilford are asking for the same thing, and that a more modern language. Some of the language in here is a little archaic. It doesn't speak to the realities. There was a time when more decisions were made locally. We are now living in a time when
it's not
centralization. And I think
things are rapidly being centralised.
When we get a directive, typically in the CE and mayor's message, they will speak to that, and then we integrate that language into the document as a whole. So we'll put a note next to that and make sure that it's updated and more reflective of reality.
If you'd like, I can do an initial CE's message and send it around, and it might just help.
I actually think finding a way to phrase that we are doing the best we can with what we've got. Like, I know we can't directly say that, but we kind of need to. That within the legislative framework, within what we're allowed to do or something.
If you think about reorganisation of local government, you think about rates capping, you think about them now telling us what core services are, you think about government now handing down mandatory standing orders that we have to adopt. I mean, really you start to think, you know, our ability to listen and adapt to the needs and the wants and desires of the community are really narrowing.
Hugely.
And that's the really good thing about the vision statement, or your theme at the beginning, was future-proofing Waimate. What does that look like? On this journey of change. Okay, I've got some notes there, but the rest of the information sort of explains what that long-term plan is, but we will adapt and change that as information comes to light and as you get a feel for where you're going and build the long-term plan. We just had another page, which is the second page.
Just before you go on, Nicole, Lisa, that sentence that you raised, what page is it on?
It was on page 43.
I don't know what other page it is, sorry. I know which one you're talking about.
Right down the bottom paragraph, how does it help?
This one here, right, thank you, I'm just going to circle around it, thank you.
Okay.
Sorry, Andy?
Yep.
Yeah,
Good.
I don't know with the head, I'm still going, so that's all right.
you're still going? That's okay.
So we go to the next page in that booklet and we talk about a strategic framework. And again, we'll update this and refresh this, but you've got an idea of a vision that you've given us now. So in that lovely big green circle at the top, your new vision would be stated in there. And then we start to come down to your community outcomes and well-beings and your strategic documents, strategic goals are achieved in each way. Again, other than maybe bringing the language more up to date, is there anything really jumping off that page at you where you think, no, I don't like that, I might wish to change that a little bit?
Made a couple of things. Will this section be dependent on the simplifying local government outcomes if we're talking about well-being? Because of course they could be on, so that's a factor. Probably the biggest thing for me is like recognising within this the role of the community consultation and feedback loop, those processes.
I think, sorry, through you, Craig, one of the things that I think about is that, and it's just true what you just said about do we fully comply with what's coming out of Wellington or not? You as a council can still enter things into this document that you see are important to you into this district.
I would still like to see well-beings matter.
Because the point I make about the well-beings is, you know, to be honest, everything around the well-beings is just nonsense. And I'll tell you why, because well-beings have been around for 50 years and they used to be what was called the double bottom line, triple bottom line and quadruple bottom line. And good companies met their obligations under those things. So a really good company was one that looked after its people, looked after the environment, looked, you know, fiscally accountable. And those things have been around, but they've just been given different labels over time and people spend too much time trying to work out what it is. It's just those fundamental things that makes a good company and a performing company.
The whole thing, it's just smoke and mirrors, Jackie. This whole government push to we're going to remove full wellbeing. It's just smoke and mirrors, as Stuart says. Every decision that you make, we don't need someone saying, "Oh, you must look at these four well-beings." We're doing it anyway.
You can't remove those things.
No.
It's what you must do to be successful.
Part of good decision making.
It's just,
I'm not going to make a decision. It's a bad economic decision. It's as simple as that.
Yeah.
And that sort of thing. It's just smoke and mirrors.
So they have signalled tucking the well-beings into core services. So there is some rhetoric that's come out.
It's just words.
So,
What we do every day.
I wouldn't get too fixated on
Okay.
exactly, that's what I'm trying to say. Is,
My biggest thing in this space is really just that community feedback loop being part of our process.
So we'll refresh the language in this. We'll bring in the new vision that you guided us with today, and we'll think about that structure, that framework of how the whole LTP sort of fits together and bring that back to you. But that's some good commentary.
Shade off the chain.
And then we do get to the community outcomes, of which we've had a long conversation about today, and I'll just come back to that overhead. And I think we've had quite a good discussion about this, and we've talked about sort of thriving community, going with community, and instead of safe and healthy people.
Yep.
And we've talked about sustainable district, calling it just the environment. Now that last one, because you've already got community in the top, where did you go? There's active.
That was infrastructure.
Infrastructure. is it? My apologies, I know I was scribbling things down.
Because we're already covered off the active, diverse, supportive community under community.
That's right. So we again will go away and have a play around with the conversation underneath some of those lines. And if at any time you think about things after this workshop, then please feed them through to Stuart, and he will feed them down to us as we start to play around with some of this language and the general theme of how you wish to present your LTP to the public and how you want to touch them with this. And we'll feed that back in and bring it back as something that you can have a think about and discuss again.
Now that I'm on this page, I'm just looking at my notes, and actually a lot of what we've discussed was addressing, because I'm like, how do we measure sustainable and diverse? And I had lots of questions, but I have put a thriving community is a community that can afford to live here, have its needs met, and be able to actively participate in activities. And so that was, I like the idea of grouping those two together. Makes far more sense.
Again, you can come back at any time, because sometimes you don't always immediately think about things around the table. So it's a living document at this stage. So just whenever you want to feed more into it, as we build on this, then please do so. The next page was just to show you what the wellbeing assessment indicators are. Then obviously they're going to go, slightly disappear, but the legislative change is indicating that they sort of get folded in as libraries, etc. into. So this is about being proactive. When we think about the language that we use in what will be your indicators going forward, we will just make sure that it's encompassing anything that still brings your well-beings forward, but we won't use that word. But again, you just feed into it over time. Is there anything else on that page, or any thoughts or comments, or items that you really feel you want us to be able to fold into your?
No, I didn't like them anyway. If I'm being honest. They're very subjective.
Yeah.
Yeah, the measures, I don't know, I'm more interested into the real world heart.
Yeah, I just don't see how
the
they...
tangible impacts at a community base, but that's like they're corporate measures applied to community outcomes effectively. So I'm just not sure where I sit with how it's framed.
Is the number of Te Reo Maori speakers really an indication of how good our society's doing?
Yeah, like
same with NCEA results. I mean, that doesn't mean that you don't have really people out there who are doing really well just because they haven't, you know.
The struggle that has always been in developing well-beings is that granular data.
Yeah.
Because we've chosen these because we have easy access to that data.
Yeah.
What we don't have, you know, it would be great if we had very Waimate focused granular data, but no one's collecting that in any consistency.
I just don't see that as accurate, really.
So we've kind of gone through the motions with these.
That sort of
placeholders. It's kind of finding that balance, because we do care about these things and they ultimately sit at the core of what councils are and what we deliver and what we're here for. But how we tangibly measure this stuff is a real challenge.
And that's where we trip ourselves up with audit every time. Is we put something in our LCP and they come on and they say, oh, we've got your LCP, how do you measure it? And then that's when they start having to spend an inordinate amount of time trying to find the data or how we measure it, upgo the fees, but
there's also an inherent frustration when one of them moves up and down for no reason. It's council's fault.
Yeah, that's right.
We don't drive the economy of New Zealand, but we are beholden to these measures to some degree. And when they ask for variance reporting on it, we go, Waimate doesn't control the GDP of New Zealand. We're subject to it.
Yeah. I think that was my looking at the detail. It's like, how is this actually real in our community?
I think they've got to have a more direct link to what the outcomes actually are, because when you look at the NCA level 1, there's actually nothing about education in the other 4.
No.
So why is that? Why is that an indicator?
So these are all going to disappear.
Yeah.
What and completely
That'd be good.
understand. They're going to disappear, but what I wanted to really get a feel from you is there anything there that you feel, we really like that for our community, we want to hear about some of that area, how do we as officers of council weave that into some of your other indicators? And this is where we're folding them in underneath.
Once we get
But what here you don't want to see anymore, we can't control, and Shay's been quite correct in that. But what are the things here you think, those still matter to us as a community? And
Where we get a really good source of local data is our community survey.
Yeah.
And this
that's one of
tends
those
to be
features of
a
the
far better
station.
indication of Waimate's well-beings than some of these.
Yeah.
So just because these are being removed or folded into other aspects or maybe standardized, we still have our resident survey, and we are exploring more options to make this a more extensive and comprehensive document in the future.
Which would become more relevant than this.
Yes.
Can I with that NCEA, does that just relate to Waimate High? Because a lot of our high school students don't go to.
no, exactly. They're out of district.
That's purely simply an easy measure because
Yeah,
the
I get
data is
that.
readily available.
Yeah.
And that was, I think that's probably the reason it was put in there, is because as a national database, it's easy to grab.
That's
Whether
comparable.
it means anything, that's
Yeah.
the second consideration.
So
There's all sorts of complexity in these. If you have a look at waste management services and the percentage of organics going into the green bin, I mean, you would have seen the furore of the last year's dumpster divers that come in and measure, you know, the invasion of privacy and all this sort of stuff. And
Things like the environmental, they are all things that council has control over, right? But the other ones, they don't. Which council measuring how happy the community is with council activities should be only things that council controls, I think.
remove all the others.
Oh, don't worry, we're finally getting some valuable data out of our resident survey. I remember a few years back, it was asking people who had never used the swimming pool in their life if it was good value.
Well, this is the thing with it.
Right.
It's subjective too. I mean,
That was like the survey they did on local government, they said, do local government good decisions around, funding and finance, and it was overwhelmingly no. And then how many people realised that they were in charge of, not in charge of the state highway? And no, we thought you looked after, how can you make a decision on one thing if you don't understand the roles that are played?
I find that with a lot of it, just people don't understand, they don't use the services, they go about their everyday life and everything's just there and they use it libraries or whatever, but they don't know that council is necessarily the one responsible for it, or if they are, they don't use it, so they don't know. So how can you?
Yeah, I think we're over that hump now. We're getting some good data with our resident survey now. Very, very valuable data. And I think it just proves to me that if you want good data, you've got to get it yourself. You can't rely on others to do it.
Just a question for Shay. Does that, and I should probably know this, should have seen it. Does it cover or does it encapsulate home ownership as opposed to rental?
You talking about the well-beings or the community survey?
The
community survey.
survey.
No.
Sorry, repeat that one more time, I missed the end of it.
I'm just wondering whether people have questions on whether they're living in rental accommodation or whether they own their homes
Yeah.
in that survey.
I believe, I'd have to talk to key research about that.
It'll be very interesting.
Yes.
I believe it's based on voter rolls. Of all their information comes from voter rolls, so if they are a rental and they are set up to vote in the district, they would be included.
Oh, I think it was more like, does it,
As a
Question.
as a question in the survey, do you live in your, do you own this?
We don't have a question in there,
You don't
You don't have that question in
but
there.
that is something we can talk to key research about adding if you're interested in those numbers.
I think it's cool.
Quite interesting measure,
Yeah,
actually.
Obviously, you've done a few of these in the past, so it won't be so interesting as when he's first time I've asked the question, but
Going forward.
Yeah, but what are you going to do with that information? What does it lead to? I mean, I'm just not sure that the answer is relevant to anything we're looking for.
I mean, the
It's
houses.
an indication of people moving here and buying property.
Yeah.
I would say that your answers to a number of the questions in there would be completely different as an owner of property, as a renter of property.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
think so too.
yeah.
When it comes to the likes of library services and things like that, I would say a renter would be more likely to say, oh, they're great.
Yeah, because
But an owner goes, bugger that, I'm having to pay for them.
Yeah.
You're not,
Yeah, yeah.
not realising the renter's still paying for them, by their rent.
Rating.
And they,
Well,
they just,
rent own or homeless.
Well, if they're homeless, how are we gonna send out the,
So what I'll do, I'll just close out the wellbeing info
Yeah.
just for a second. Reason why we've also brought this up is at the moment in legislation, this is still there.
Yeah.
So we're cognizant of it. We're going to start to move, that's why I'm asking if there was anything, down in a ditch that you really want to hold on to. Otherwise, we'll start to weave things in, but it might be that we, depending on where legislation goes, and we pull this back out. I think the indicators are it's gone, but it still has to be there for the moment, okay?
Yep.
So we'll go to performance measures. So we are going to come back and do a big deep dive with you in the next workshop. So this is high level at the moment, explaining to you what all the different measures are that you've got. Your workbook just gives you a cover of what service performance is. Again, we will update any of the language in here and the timelines. If there's anything there, making sure that it's got good modern community style language for you. But that just outlines what service performance is and performance measures and targets. And then we go to the last page in your booklet where we've just sort of got the three types of the performance measures that you've got. The resident survey, the mandatory. So the resident survey are the ones that you see highlighted in pink, and you'll see that nothing changes on those. It just keeps saying survey in 27, survey in 27. Then we've got mandatory ones. Those mandatory ones are in your roading. They're part of NZTA stipulation. We can't change those, but they're really good ones for you to watch. Again, as we go through this year, changes with legislation, focus on core services. We don't know what may come down the pipeline in regards to roading or how they're going to treat it, but there isn't any major indications of a change, unless Stuart's got anything that he's been aware of in his circle of conversations. I haven't heard anything about how they're going to measure, handle that or direct councils at this stage. And then we have the other ones that the rest of the measures that we can play around with. So anything that you then see in white are ones that we can change. You can change the percentage on some of your resident survey stuff. So that's where we'll do the deep dive with you at the next workshop, where we can say, hey, you might be punching too high here, you're above national, do you really want to stay there? So we'll talk you through all of that.
I think a classic example was unsealed roads. It's just, we're never going to satisfy them at the levels we have in here.
So what I might do, just as a quick reminder, and because we don't want to sort of labour this for you because we will come back to it, Shay's just going to quickly remind you of some of the paper we brought to you a little while ago with the results of and the benchmarking and the reasons why it might be really good to stick with what we're doing in the benchmarking, and also that we have the team that do these performance measures for us. We're going to bring them, if everybody's okay with this, for 10 minutes on Teams into the meeting just to talk about your resident survey stuff and give you a feel for the other councils, how we're tracking, where they see us, the richness of the information they get, and leave the floor open for you to ask any questions before we dive into them. So, Shay, over to you.
So, what we really would like for you to walk away from this meeting with is the idea of where you need to be setting, what performance measures are adequate, where we may need another one, where the targets need to be set. And in doing so, there's an immense amount of valuable knowledge in the reports that we brought, I believe, was it in January or early last year, or late last year?
Just data's on the front there.
That was
We can
October.
recirculate.
Can't believe it's already been October. October 7th is, please go back and revisit the benchmarking and the analysis that happened. What we really want is to be able to align our measures and targets with community priorities. And that's a direct reflection of what this survey spells out. Additionally, we want our targets to be evidence and data driven so that those targets speak not only to council, but to staff in making strategic decisions. Again, I'm going to repeat what Nicole said in that it's very much a discussion. Where are we punching above our weight? Where maybe do we need to pick up a little bit of the slack? Think about where those survey questions, what activity do they speak to of council? And where might we say, we need to adjust this measure up or down, or maybe there's that aspect where we need to be doing better, needs a measure to show, to track changes in what we're doing, what we're trying, what you guys are going to, the decision that you're going to be making in this long-term plan. Yeah, I think key research is going to come in and talk, and that'll be really valuable. You'll be able to ask them questions about what we can do in modifying the community survey, what we can add. We don't really want to take a whole lot away because obviously those benchmarked questions are standardized and they provide quite a lot of context to how we're performing compared to the rest of the country.
I think that's one of the most valuable measures, because when you first look at some of them, you go, oh, that's terrible. But when you do it comparatively, you realise that we're actually performing really, really well. And so it gives context to it. Yeah, I probably am thinking levels of service. Like this LTP, we're going to be having to look at levels of service. If all of the legislative change comes through, we're going to be looking at levels of service. And will that directly reflect into what we set our measures to be? Because there may be, the community may choose through the LTP process to reduce levels of service. So that's going to feed into this, isn't it?
Yes, because you wouldn't want to have an achievement level. We're going to do 90% of pathways or choose something, and then you've got to reduce how much money you're going to put into it.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. So it needs to correlate.
There should be rhyme and reason between the activities that council's undertaking and the targets that we're setting. What we don't want is a disconnect or performative targets.
Yeah, I just don't want to set the staff up
to
be slammed when actually the community has opted through consultation to reduce level of service.
And this is why, as a living document, when we do go through all of these sections and these workshops, we will come back on these things as legislation comes out. And as Stuart and then with the leadership team and the officers of council really get their head around, and we get our head around the ramifications of those changes, and it starts to feed into, maybe it doesn't change the strategy, but it certainly changes the focus, and therefore we will come back to you with, hey, we don't think we can achieve this performance measure, we thought about this, but actually we're going to have to drop this or change this, or this area is doing better than we thought. So again, it's a living document, it'll come and go a little bit, and it'll move with us through this year, and certainly by December this year we're going to have a really good feel for where some of this is going, and plenty of time to come back and rethink some of these areas if we need to.
None of this will be locked in stone until very late in the process.
Yeah. And the big challenge is we've always had these aspirational targets.
Yeah.
And yes, in a perfect world, you could get down to 100% recycling of rubbish, but we know that it is never going to happen. And it's a matter of balancing these aspirational targets against the reality. Because we also don't want to be seen to say, well, the only reason you make your targets is because you dropped all your measures down.
We just want things to be realistic. And if the community choose change in service.
And I think too is it comes back to really good advice from the staff. The likes of Dan in the waste management area. What is a realistic green waste? And that sort of thing. Because we know that it's currently, what is it, about 30%. We know we're not going to get down to 5,
Yeah.
but with a bit of work, we could get down to 20. Okay, so let's make the target 20, not 5.
Yeah, and then they can go away and Dan can give his team direction on what they can do, the changes they can make or new things they can implement to achieve those targets, and that helps form the budgets and the strategy. So these things sort of work up and down to each other all of the time.
And I think that's why I found those spider graphs really helpful, and as far as we could see where we were outperforming other areas and where we were underperforming.
Yeah,
So
where we need to
concentrate on the ones that we can shift.
Yeah.
And that sort of thing. In an ideal world, you would keep the ones where we're outperforming everybody else and just boost up the underperforming ones. But it was a very quick, easy way of understanding areas that we can make improvements in.
So those that haven't got that, because it was just on the change, so the new councillors, we'll make sure that we get that out to you. It's on your hub again, as a secondary piece of information. It is public, so we can get that to you.
Yeah.
And
Second on the elected members hub.
Yep.
Yeah, that would be good.
Put some focus on it, and
It was very good.
Yeah, I remember sitting in on
so that concludes our workshop 1, and we've done the vision and the outcome, so we're going to be able to give some feedback to Michelle and the team to be able to start to flesh out some of the design. And we've also looked at the council activities, and we will come back to you with the refreshed language and some of the ideas and thoughts. Again, we can touch on that at the next workshop after we've done a bit of a deep dive on the performance measures, and just make sure that we've interpreted the conversation today and then do any further tweaks. And then workshop 2 is the real deep dive, and I think at that point I can hand back to the Mayor and Stuart for any closing words, anything you want to wrap up with for today.
Well, I guess for me, I think you've heard loud and clearly from everybody, we need to dumb it down, need to make it much more understandable for the ratepayers or for the community. And it needs to be meaningful.
Yeah, more real world. Yeah.
So that's the ideal LGB for me, that's what it would look like.
Only a few pages.
Take out the other 100.
I'll print you out a copy of the 1990, whatever it was, the 2000 or whatever it was, LGP.
I think.
It was 5 volumes. Yeah, when I first came in, we had five volumes like that.
Yeah. Stuart, anything from you? You're happy?
I would have said it. What Craig said.
Yeah.
Just jumping back really quick, we gave you a little LTP cheat sheet. This is straight out of the Local Government Act.
Yeah, that was really good.
It's Schedule 10, Part 1, and it is LTP 101. It's going to tell you exactly what has to be in there by the letter of the law. It's definitely got a lot of links. If you look at it on the website, there's a lot of purple links you can dig down into. But it's a good starting point for you when we go through these sections to say what has to be in there and what can we remove.
Yeah.
So that makes up 85% of the document.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, and the reason why. So again, these are all tools for you when you're talking to the public. If there's anything else we can give you or help you with, sing out, and we'll make sure that we give you whatever you need for your toolkit to just be building on this. So I'll conclude the meeting there. I just have to turn off, and as we know, there is a 15-20 second delay. And it'll keep recording for that 15-20 seconds once I've hit the button, so just to let you know for a moment.
Just a thank you to you guys for that report, because it was easy to read through and quite, with the extra information. So, and because it is a lot to learn and take in, and it was quite quick. Well done.
Thank you. I just want to make sure that we take the public on the journey as well.
Yeah.
Effectively, it's their document to use.
We can but try.
That last I took through to ID because I can't open it.